I'm Geraldine. We are back for another Facebook Live of the day with some awesome Broadway music directors. Today we are here with Brad Gardner. Hi, Brad.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good. I'm so excited to have you. So I was trying to think of when was the last time you and I have seen each other in person, because we are always in touch. But in person, I'm pretty sure the last time goes back to when you were playing the Sense and Sensibility workshop presentation with the wonderful Kathy Venable playing the flute on top of the piano.
That's right. We had our dueling pianos and flute. That's right.
That
That's
was
really
fun.
funny. Yeah, that was fun.
And you don't expect one of your amazing pianist friends to just pull out a flute. And there was Kathy Venable doing that.
I totally forgot she did that. That's a wonderful memory.
Well, you guys were rocky. I mean, you sounded so good. The two of you together, too. That was amazing. So anyways, everyone, if you don't know Brad Gardner is the music director of American in Paris, Tokyo, and also the associate music director of the Aladdin tour. So if you're here, you're watching us live, mark in the comments if you have questions for Brad, any kind of questions you have. Also, please sign with your name so I can see who is asking the question if I ask it. Hi, Jose. We see you.
Hi, Jose.
So, Brad,
yeah,
I have also played those two shows you worked on. So I just want to bring something up that caused me some stress for no reason. It's one of the simple things you'd think would be easy and just isn't. In Aladdin, right before the red carpet appears for the first time, at the window, there's one single ding. In the keyboard book, that is the ding that creates the magic and the ding that gives the pitch to the actor. Therefore, it is the most important note you've ever played in your entire life. And it can be too soft and it can be too loud. It takes away the magic if it's too loud. And if it's too soft, the singer is lost.
Yes.
So talk to me about that ding. What does that ding do to you?
It never got easier. And I mean, it's just a rolled chord that's supposed to accelerate towards the top. That's all it is. And it's how Aladdin gets his note. So I don't know what it is. I think for me, the anxiety of it came when my first experience on the Aladdin tour was as a sub on the Associate the Key 2 book. And so I always had that anxiety when I was initially subbing the show. And then when I actually started doing the show full time and was constantly having to communicate that moment of like, okay, this is what it's supposed to be. Oh, not that. Oh, not that. But like it became this stress that was always there. And even if I wasn't playing it, say I was conducting the show, I would have the stress for my sub being like, I know what they're going through right now. I'm really sorry. Just play.
I mean, it's the thing, right? You spend like years and decades of your life studying the piano to be able to play all these hard things. And then the stress comes down to the one easy to play thing that becomes, and like that reminds me in Book of Mormon, I've never played it, but all the people I've talked to who have played it, whether it's their chair or subs, talk about the first 4 bells of the intro. So all that education, and here we are.
Yep, exactly.
Here we are. On another topic, I want to ask you about conducting American in Paris, because it's something to conduct a musical theater show. It's something else to conduct large chunks. And in American in Paris, you're looking at 20 minutes, 2 times 20-minute long ballets. And you're now doing like ballet dancers. What does that mean for you as a conductor? How do you handle that? What is different?
Oh, that was such an interesting thing to learn when I started working on that show, because I had no exposure to ballet. And what I quickly learned from Christopher Wheeldon and from Todd Ellison, the Broadway conductor and music supervisor, and Rob Fisher, was that really learning to breathe with dance was such an important thing. I also see that Jesse's in here.
Hi, Jesse.
Hi, Jesse, who's also conducted an American in Paris.
Who was my boss when I was doing American in Paris. In Paris!
That's right. What was really interesting to learn is learning to breathe with the dancers and knowing that it's not going to be consistent night to night. It's really like how the dancers are feeling. I'm speaking specifically in like the big pas de deux moments in the show, and really learning to read their bodies and learning how the different partners, like learning, okay, this is how steel dances this. this is how our other Garen Scribner dances this, and just kind of knowing the ins and outs of how they prefer it, and just being able to ebb and flow and read when something's not quite going right, and how can I best support them from the pit to kind of give them what I think they're communicating with their body. It's a whole different thing from like, because we're so used to following singers, and so it's just like now imposing that concept on just watching the human body.
Do you have to memorize then to be able to watch to that extent?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
When you first went and conducted, did you conduct from memory?
I did for some of the big ballet moments, but you know that show also it's got so many meter changes and things that I was not confident enough to completely like look away the whole show, because that was one of my most terrifying first conducting experiences was that show.
Why is that?
It's a beast. I mean, it's a beast for any musician in the pit, especially you did the Key One book, yes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that long Steinway, baby, and
oh
realize
man,
the rest. Yes.
how cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
No
That's
complaints
awesome.
over here.
Yeah. But there's something that comes with, you know, it requires a lot of hours and a lot of homework and a lot of really just time living with the score and absorbing it and becoming, you know, as they say, one with the score. But the payoff of pulling that show off successfully is immense. And I don't think I've had an experience that compares to what finishing that ballet felt like every night.
Yeah. And so you did it in Tokyo, and I know there was a production with a lot of our cast in Paris that did it in China, where they did the whole thing, which is hard to believe, with recordings. Now, how was it done in Tokyo? Was it all recordings? Was it all live band? Was it a mix? What was the situation there?
So this is with Shiki Theater Company in Tokyo. The show is still running. I mean, they're in a hiatus right now with the whole coronavirus, but the show is still running over there. How they structured it, which was really, really interesting, is we actually got to create the recordings. So the recordings that the production in China used, I actually created alongside Steve Ridley, who was the associate and then became the music director of the West End production. He came over to Tokyo, and him and I together had an orchestra, and we got to record the tracks that then we used in Japan, still used in Japan, and they then were used in China and Taiwan.
Yeah. And so what are special challenges with that? What does that mean for you when you're conducting every day? What are you conducting then?
Well, what was the hardest thing about it was, if you think in the whole tech process of a show, is you need to have those recordings done by tech. However, it's ballet, and as ballet happens, as I'm sure you saw even in that time in Paris, is things start, you know, tempos adjust in the rehearsal period. So the biggest challenge in recording was setting a tempo, because it's not something that you can really, you know, we weren't running Ableton or running anything that can really adjust to any, you know, we couldn't, like, we record the tempo, that's where it sits. And so there was a lot of guesswork in, I think this is going to be a good tempo for when they open. Also, another thing to think about is vamps and fermatas, and creating a whole recording process that would account for how to accommodate that in a recording situation.
How did you do that?
Well, it's really fascinating. That it's if you think of like two parallel, like an A and a B track. So A track is running, it's here, and then you're sitting in a fermata, and the sound operator knows the cue out of that fermata, and they trigger something running on the B track to come in, and that's the next measure. So I had to go through that whole American in Paris score and create this whole system of like, okay, when we record, we need to hold this fermata for like 3 times as long as it would ever need to be played. So we have that recorded, so we're covered. And then when we get to this vamp, we need to play it 20 times just as a fail-safe, so it never has to get that far. And then, so we tracked that and recorded that all with the orchestra. and then also then going back into the rehearsal room and teaching that to a sound op of how to conduct the show.
So you weren't in charge of pushing the button.
We were not.
Ooh, because I think in China they were. I mean, Jess, yes, you're here, so tell me if I'm saying something wrong. Yeah, I mean, the vamps are just always a beast, no matter what, right? It's
Yes.
like it's a beast live. It's a beast with loops and clicks and stuff. I know in School of Rock, you had you had clicks. So you trigger the clicks from the conducting, but then you'd have devamps, which is you're in a vamp, and then you'd have to click the click so it moves forward to the next measure, and you could click it on any beat of the measure of the last time through the vamp.
Wow.
Okay. So you just had to make sure the safest way was to click it on beat 3, because if you did it on beat 1, you didn't want to, you wanted the system to know it still had another bar of them to go through. If you did it on beat 2, it's fine. But what if something happens with the actors and they don't carry on? If you do it on beat 4, it maybe something will happen. So beat 3 was always the safest. Like, now we're done with the vamp, we're going out. But it's like, don't miss on that vamp, though, because if you miss the devamp, and there's a slowdown coming up or something that the click accounts for on the next section. The whole thing, the things we do.
Exactly.
So you worked as a music director and an associate, which I think is true of a lot of people in this career, always going back in different positions at all times. Do you have a favorite, and why?
I love conducting. I really conducting by far, like music directing, is really a special challenge, but also so rewarding. And I've had the opportunity to work under some really wonderful music directors that have. I never want to stop learning. And I've really had that with there was Paul Sportelli at Arena Stage. I learned a lot from David Andrews Rogers on the American Paris tour, Todd Ellison, and then just most recently with Aladdin with B.A. Huffman and Faith Situ. And they're all just wonderful, wonderful mentors. And then when I get the opportunity to be like, okay, I have all these tools in my toolbox that I've learned from them, and things about the ways they work that I really admire and want to absorb. When I get the opportunity with something like Tokyo, it's so exciting to go and be like, okay, this is my style. This is how I want to do it.
So what are some things that you've learned? What are some golden nuggets you carry with you from those people?
I think like the number one rule of improv is just like yes and, right? Just yes and everything. So it's I think Ian said a similar thing yesterday about just being a collaborator. And when someone comes to you with a need or with something that needs to be accomplished, being open to that idea and being like, okay, how can I help support this other department achieve that goal? And where can we meet? So it's being pleasant to work with and cultivating an environment that's welcoming and open, and people want to work with you and feel safe coming to you with questions about the show, with helping them get more confident in being an Aladdin understudy, for example.
And so when you're when you're music directing in a foreign country, do you always speak English? Do you have is the language a barrier? Is there different rules? Because here we're so used to equity and the breaks and how it works. What does that work? What is that like in another country?
Well, the production in Tokyo is in Japanese. So the whole show's in Japanese. So I went over there it was just me, director, associate director, and dance captain. And everyone else spoke Japanese. So we were all assigned our individual translator, and how it would work every day in the room.
That's fancy.
Yes. So I had my translator, Sue. She would have a microphone, and all the other translators had microphones as well. And then we did not. So us English speakers did not have microphones. So the cast got used to, whenever they heard Sue speak, they knew that I had something to say. And that goes for every other translator in the room.
So were those translate yours, Sue? Was Sue a musician? So did she know how to translate musical terms? Because
Shiki had hired translators that were very well versed in all our departments. So Sue was a pianist and knew all the musical terms and knowledge, and was very good at communicating. I mean, as far as I can tell, that I got everything done I needed to, and she did it very well. So yeah, and then we had the choreographer one was right there with all the dance and the terms, and yes, so they were very good at hiring people that knew how to speak our musical language.
I wonder if the difference between your production and the sound engineer being the person to push the click buttons, and Jesse confirmed that in China it was the music director's job. I think the difference might be because of the language of the cast, because the Chinese production, I believe, was in English.
Right, it was.
While your production was there was no way as a music director you could have taken a cue in Japanese. Would there have been?
I slowly got used to hearing it. I was over there for 3 months, so I slowly got used to understanding kind of where we were and kind of what was going on in the scenes. But I don't think I would have even had the confidence by opening night, so we were conducting, to really to really lead the show as it needs to be led.
And what about the work culture? I've heard stories, and I don't know I think it was in Japan. I know some people had gone, maybe it was for Kinky Boots, and they were saying that when they had a break, everyone was expected to be in their spot ready to work when the break was over. When like in America, it's like break is over, yeah. People walk over to their places, but over there it's like break is over means you're here ready to go now.
Yeah, and what was really, that happened every time we took a 10 or a 15, even through lunch, they would run to the cafeteria, because Shiki rehearsal space has its own cafeteria, which was really lovely. They would run the cafeteria, eat, and then they go back and like they practice for whatever was on the docket for the afternoon. They also had full access to the building 24/7. And so often we would rehearse, I think a normal day was like 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. We would leave at 7, and the cast would quietly wait for us to leave so they could start practicing on their own. And then they would stay there, as from my understanding, till 10 or 11 at night, almost every night, practicing and practicing. So when we came in the next morning, they were ready and had like fully absorbed what we had done the day before, which was wow. The work ethic was unlike anything I've ever seen.
So when would they do things like, I know American actors spend, they're at the gym every day. So a lot of times they'll spend 1 hour to an hour and a half at the gym, and also planning their meals, because they all eat healthy, usually food that they bring from home or salads. Like, were they also, your cast in Japan, were they also spending time like going to the gym on top of their added practice?
They were, and Shiki also had a gym in their rehearsal facility. The rehearsal facility was quite insane, that they had, I think, 5 or 6 full rehearsal spaces with really nice pianos. They had a gym, they had a cafeteria, all their production offices, everything all under one roof. Yeah. And so the actors really never left that building. So if they weren't in a scene, they were in a hallway practicing, or they were up in the gym, or they were always making use of their time.
How about stage management? And once performances started, was there other differences between the way it's done in America and how it was done there?
Yes, the stage manager is not really the omnipotent presence over a show there like it is for us. So sound is not really connected to stage management. They just know their cues. They don't wait for a cue for anything they don't get cue lights or anything. And from my understanding backstage, it was a very similar setup. The stage manager, she would call specific like scene cues coming in for safety, but she wasn't always calling every light cue. The lighting, the light board op knew when to call things just off of knowing the script. So there's a level of trust. Also, another interesting thing, not in our world, but there was only like 2 or 3 dressers backstage. So if you weren't dancing or singing, you were expected to be helping dressing your friends.
That's different. Yeah, I know it's interesting. I never really thought of the differences until I was in Paris for An American in Paris, because some of the differences we noticed was there was a person that appeared to be a manager of just the band. And that person's job was to handle anything band during performances. And so they would be the ones, like, you wouldn't hear over anything. You wouldn't hear the stage manager call half hour and like 10 minutes. You would just have this person go around and be like, okay, you got to be there in 10 minutes. And you had to be there at 8 p.m. You weren't there if the show started 5 minutes later and the stage manager would call in 10 at 5 till, you wouldn't have that. You'd have your own separate calls from that band person. And
Wow.
so that was something different. And they would strike out of our pit every Monday because they would rent out the space every Monday. So that person was also responsible for putting things back, which was quite a lot because we were a big band and there was a lot of different things, and details. So that was one of the differences. But we also had a similar thing as our first week we were in the Bastille Opera. And same thing, it was a giant building that had maybe 8 floors up and 8 floors below, I think, or 4 below. And you had a full floor for choreographers and a full floor for costume and a full floor for technicians. And same thing, they had a cafeteria in there. And it's like, wow, that's so efficient. Everyone's there. All the departments are there. Like props were there. Orchestra were there. They had a whole area with all the pit layouts. I mean, talk about geeking out. All the pit layouts of all the operas, they were going to do that here. Every single chair was accounted for. And you could see where you were going to sit for the whole year in all the different formations. And they had like the list of each like called member for each opera, and it's full time. I mean, it was a whole other thing. But enough geeking out. How are you doing? Where are you located right now? Where are you at? What are you doing?
I was when all of this happened.
You were where?
I was on the Aladdin tour when this went down. We were in Austin, Texas, and we kind of got our sudden closing as everyone else in this industry did. And I was fortunate enough, my best friend that I went to college with, she lives here in Houston. So I'm in Houston now, 2 hours away from Austin. So I drove to my best friend's house. She lives here. It's her and her wife and their 18-month-old twins. So I have become the live-in gunkle here, just taking care of kids. And it's been a really nice thing to focus on in this kind of crazy time. Just just being home and not being able to do much work-wise. So it's been really lovely to have kids to play with.
Are you teaching? Are your gunkling responsibilities including teaching them how to do musical things?
Yeah, I have my ukulele somewhere in this house. They've taken it, so I've been playing ukulele with them and teaching them how to strum. And
that's so fun.
They really, really enjoy it. They like to pull the strings. So I'm trying to teach them just rub your hand across it.
They're trying.
Yeah. And try to just pull them up.
It is not a harpsichord. Nope. And I hear you're also doing some conducting lessons during this time.
Yeah, I randomly on the Aladdin tour fell into getting a few conducting students via Skype. I had a girl named Maria that was with my the first person that did this. She came up to the pit rail in Portland, Oregon after the show and was like, how do you get to where you are? How do you do what you do? Like, how does it work? So we just struck up a conversation, and her mom ended up emailing me a few weeks later saying, would you be interested in teaching my daughter some basic conducting lessons? And it kind of grew from her through her referrals and then through just other people that would ask. And it's really grown into this little online thing I have of coaching stick conducting, because I've been lucky enough in my past 3 or 4 years to be on 2 big stick conducting shows that I've learned quite a bit on.
That's amazing.
Love to pay it forward. And
so where can people reach to you?
You can reach, Facebook message is excellent. My email, I'll put it in the comments here as well.
Love it.
bradkgardner@gmail.com. And then I'll put my Instagram in there as well, so you can find me on there if you're interested. It's a lot of babies lately, just warning.
We got couple last questions. What is your favorite stick conducting show?
An American in Paris.
What is your favorite piano conducting show?
I did Silence the Musical. If we're going off of ones I've done, Silence the Musical. That was a very fun, silly one.
And do you have any plans to join another tour in the near future?
Nothing now, but I'm available.
All right. Available for conducting lessons and for tours, Brad Gardner. And everyone, Excellent. Thank you for joining us live. We have the vocal arranging class is kicking off tomorrow. So make sure to get on that because it's not going to be offered for a while. It's with Brian Perry, who was the music director at Wicked, is the music supervisor of Almost Famous, and of Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill. So it's going to be an amazing class, taking over two unison, 2-part harmony, 3-part harmony, 4-part harmony, and beyond, and lots of different styles. It's like a full comprehensive vocal arranging class. It's epic. I can't wait. Brad, thank you so much. It was so nice to catch up with you.
Thank you. This is great.
Thank you for joining us and having fun with us.
Yeah.
Bye, Brad.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.